Hey, what's going on? This is Justin here, back with another creator commentary. It's been a while since I've done one of these, and I've been meaning to do this one for a few weeks now, but I've been putting it off because it's such a massive time lapse. It's a 19-minute time lapse. So bear with me as we go through this. This project here is a one-page comic I did called Love is All Around. So this project came around because I was going to submit it to a community zine project for Betty's Books, which is based out in St. Louis. And every year they have a community zine project, and they welcome all ages and all levels of comic maker to participate. So I had two ideas. One was for a new Juju comic, and the other one was for a heart comic. And the zine had a theme, which was in orbit. So anything that related to space, that was a big one, or anything that the creator felt referenced the idea of things in orbit or revolving around something, stuff like that. So I went with this Juju idea called I think it was called Juju Floats, and it was going to be about her sort of floating through space. And it turns out she was in a pool, and there were all these different swimming toys, sort of floating around her in her orbit. And then the other idea was for this comic, which was called Love is All Around. And the idea is that LB is walking through a park and she notices the birds are in love, dogs are in love, everything, there's like love all around her. And she doesn't really feel that. So she's feeling kind of down about it. And then at the end of the comic, you see that Thump is there waiting for her with some hot dogs. And nothing says love like hot dogs in a park. So I did the rough stuff for both comics, and the Juju Floats one I couldn't get to work visually. I couldn't really tell the story I wanted to tell in the one page, and I abandoned it. And I took that as a sign, really, to be like, wow, I'm really done with Juju, because I tried to make a new comic. It almost felt a little forced, and I was not liking the results. So then I doubled back and focused more on this one, which was the one that was winning in terms of conception and visualization and panel breakdown and layout. And speaking of panel breakdown and layout, within the first 3 minutes of this time lapse, I'm already in the inking and coloring phase. But I want to take a moment to talk about creating panels in Procreate, which is actually really hard. And the app doesn't have a designated panel creator like a Sketchbook Pro or a Manga Studio type of program would have. So you have to make these panels by hand. And the way I do it is I create a bunch of boxes, and then to get the line thickness, I duplicate that box, and then I shrink it down to get the panel width the way that I like. And it's a very intricate process because sometimes I see there's a little bit more thickness on the bottom of one panel than at the top, and like my OCD cannot let that go, and I have to really get in there, zoom in as much as I can, and scrape off as much of that border as I can so that it looks like it's pretty even all around. It's a really painstaking process. And the funny thing about making the panels, taking that time to make all the panels, is that as we get to the end of this time lapse, you'll see that I pretty much abandon the panel layouts and leave the whole comic, pretty much the whole comic panel lists, because it has this really cool naturalistic and sort of organic free flowing look to it, which is a very good complement to the park setting of this comic. I also changed up the coloring style for this as well, using a lot more textured brushes and really filling in the colors and giving it this sketchy look and this graininess to the colors that I really enjoyed. And it was a lot of like tinkering and playing around with color as well as texture when it comes to the inking, adding a lot of line and cross hatching and just something different than what you would normally see the heart characters in. A lot of the times it's a cell shaded kind of look, very 2D with a layer of renders, a layer of shades and shadows, and like maybe one or two tones. Whereas this one, I was playing around a lot with color and texture and just trying to feel something different. And that could be because I've been pretty burned out on this kind of storytelling, especially at the beginning of the year. I know that we're halfway through the year now, and this is the only bit of sequential storytelling I've done all year. Um, I'm I think I'm taking a break mentally and creatively from telling stories this way. So when this opportunity came up, I wanted to try and do something different. And I've never really done the heart characters in a comic strip style format before. And, I felt like this was very low maintenance for me because it was such a wide deadline. Like when I started this, I had a lot of time to get it finished. And because I had such a extended deadline, it gave me the ability to play with it and not I could have whipped this up real fast, but it took me weeks, literally weeks, on finding a new style and just adding all this texture and really taking the time with the storytelling. And I didn't have any actual words in the story. I avoided word balloons and text and fonts and actual speaking characters and made this more of a visual thing, kind of like one of those X-Men comics, the Nuff Said, where it was just all panels and no dialogue. So I was challenging myself, and it was very difficult because I had just completed a 56-page comic with Juju's World of Play at the end of last year, and I was just like wanting to do something different. But I also don't shy away from these types of submissions and drawing challenges and opportunities because it gives me a chance to stay fresh and, you know, exercise these kinds of muscles, even though I wasn't really feeling like I wanted to make another comic after, doing Juju's World of Play. But I still took the challenge and wanted to submit to this community zine project because the store and just the whole comics are for everyone kind of vibe I got from this challenge really wanted me to participate. Sadly, I did not get accepted into the zine project, and I also submitted this to an illustration magazine because they were also looking for submissions. And I had this one finished, so I was like, might as well take a shot with it. And I also got rejected from that. So it was a bit disheartening getting those emails and not having the opportunity to share this comic outside of my Patreon. I do plan to share it eventually. I think I might upload it for Pride just to have something to celebrate, and it's about love. Excuse me. But yeah, it was a little bit of a heartbreak, and especially because I worked so hard on it, and I was trying to do something different and challenge myself with this style of storytelling and working with a lot of different brushes and just trying to push myself in the Procreate app as much as possible. So that was a little bit of a bummer, and I haven't really been wanting to make comics ever since. Not specifically because of these rejection emails I got for this comic, but just because I've been burned out. That's sort of the state of mind I'm in right now. I don't really know what I want to do. Earlier in the year, I announced a poem, a visual poem that I wanted to make doing a series of paintings, but it just feels like it's going to end up being another book. And I actually haven't really done much more with that because of the fact that I'm thinking about the end result. Like, is it really that different than what I normally do? And I think the answer is yes and no. Yes, because it's painting, and like I don't paint. I'm not a painter, but it's like something I would like to try, and I use this poem that I wrote as a catalyst to get me to paint. But I actually haven't started painting yet. I painted the titles, which is called Shape, and it is another heart project. But then in the end, I was thinking about once the paintings were done, I would collect it and put it into another book, and it would be like another board book. But I haven't fully committed to that idea yet because I don't know what the pages look like or the paintings look like because I haven't started them because I don't know, I'm just not feeling creative a lot these days. I think one of the main reasons why I was bummed that the community zine and the illustration magazine rejected this project or this comic was that it sort of shut down any chance of growing my audience. And I feel like that's something I've been struggling to do for the last 3 or 4 years. And to be honest, it makes me not want to create, really. And I know I shouldn't say that, but I do love making things for myself. But I really want to be able to share that with people. And it's hard when you're fighting against AI and algorithms and you're trying to push through those kinds of tech so that the people who really want to see your art can. So I don't know. I've had lots of opportunities to work creatively, and I find myself pushing that aside often to focus on stuff that needs to get done around the house. And I've been really embracing my stay at home dad status lately, which is good. It's healthy too, but I don't know if pushing away or setting aside things creatively is good for me, especially being the creative person I am. Sometimes to wind down from a day, like a very busy day, I would do a drawing and it would relax me. And if I didn't draw, I would get really anxious. I'd feel a certain way. And that's kind of gone away. I think it's being replaced by overall tiredness and exhaustion being a parent. So I don't know. I liked making this comic. I thought it turned out really great. I tried some different things and played around with color and texture and different brushes, and I had a really good time making it. It took a lot longer than I expected, especially for a one-page comic, and I think it's because I was pushing myself. And after this, I announced the poem project, and I haven't really touched it since announcing it. And I'm just not in that mood or that mode anymore. And that kind of scares me as a creative person. It's not really giving up, um, but it feels like some sort of change. And for the first time in a long time, I don't really have any projects lined up or anything that I want to get done like immediately. There are some things that I've been poking around about. Like I have an idea for a Murder Balloon sequel, and I also thought about maybe running a campaign, a crowdfunding campaign to get the first book reprinted and maybe like add a new story. But I don't know if I really want to do that or I was just feeling envious of someone who did do that and they raised a lot of money and they're getting their book completed and reprinted and it's going to be even better than before. And that got me thinking about my own personal work. And then, you know, um, I have someone who is trying to pitch a book to me and want me to illustrate it, and I haven't gotten around to reading the draft, and it's like, have I been busy or do I not actually want to do that? And so these are thoughts that I'm constantly thinking about, as I move into another creative phase of my life. Is it going to be a new phase, or is it just going to be the same stuff I do over and over again? And am I content with that? I mean, I don't think I am, because if I'm talking to you like this during this commentary for a comic that I made and I'm talking about other things, then yeah, I'm definitely in a different headspace than I was last year. This comic did spark an idea of doing a series of heart comics like this. And then, going back to my old ways of just like, if I do a series of heart comics and then put them together and have like a new comic, and it's just like repeating the same pattern. And I think I'm just wanting something else or something new. And I thought maybe a painting project would be that. And maybe it is, but I mean, like I said before, I haven't really started it. So I'm at a weird crossroads, I think, a creative crossroads, and I'm not sure what to do or how to feel about it. But I know that when I made this comic, I was in a good place. I was thinking about the possibilities of what this comic could be, but it seems to just live and die in my Patreon because no one else wanted to see it, I guess. And that really kind of bummed me out, and I guess it sent me on a path of questioning, a lot of career choices or creative decisions. And yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And maybe that's why it took so long to make this commentary track, because it was like a daunting, like, oh my God, what am I going to speak about for like almost 20 minutes? Clearly, I had some things on my mind, and I hope I did give you some insight into the creative process of how I made Love Is All Around. I think it's a really fun comic. I think it'd be kind of cool to like print it out as like a poster or something, and try it, sell it that way, or just find a fun thing to do with it other than having it be on a post on my Patreon for my like 10 or 3 followers or whatever. And like that's the thing, it's again, it goes back to that, like trying to get my numbers up and trying to engage and then really develop a community, an art community around the work I do. And I've been struggling with that for the last 4 or 5 years, and I'm not sure what to do. But if you liked this comic, if you like the creation of it, if you like me just sort of talking, sorry there's no background music, but I had to cancel my background music subscription. So we're doing this just plain, just me, just talking about my feelings and my creative process and how I made Love Is All Around. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're doing well. I hope you enjoyed this commentary. All 17 of you or 15, I don't know how many followers I have. I'd like to have more, but that seems to be my current dilemma. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed listening to me rant and um, be somewhat insightful and somewhat introspective. But I appreciate you being here, and thanks for listening. And I hope I'll get it figured out soon. But until then, I'll see you on the next.